The Young and the Restless spoilers. The wedding of Claire and Kyle had been painted as a glamorous dream, the kind of high society event that Genoa City's elite could not wait to gossip about. But beneath the polished surface, there were already cracks threatening to tear the entire facade apart. Kyle believed that marrying Claire would finally give him a chance to stabilize his chaotic personal life after years of heartbreak, betrayal, and endless battles within the Newman and Abbott dynasties. Claire, on the other hand, was attempting to rewrite her story, convincing herself and everyone else that she had shed the manipulative shadows of her past. But fate in the soap opera world rarely allows such clean slates. And just when it seemed the wedding bells were within reach, something so shocking, so destabilizing occurred that the very foundation of their future crumbled in an instant. Kyle had traveled with Claire to Nice, a romantic getaway meant to seal their love before the ceremony, a symbolic escape from the constant scrutiny of family empires, boardrooms, and whispers of doubters. Yet in this idyllic setting, the last thing Kyle expected was to stumble across a boy no older than 10, standing near the promenade as though searching for something or someone lost. At first, Kyle felt nothing more than casual curiosity, but when he struck up a conversation with the boy, the innocence of the exchange twisted into horror. Kyle asked the child who he was looking for, and the boy answered with a quiet firmness that belied his years. He was looking for his mother. That word, simple as it was, carried the weight of mysteries untold. The boy then produced a worn photograph from his pocket. Kyle's world tilted as his eyes fell upon the face captured in the faded image. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't some nameless woman who might pass through Genoa City gossip columns. It was Claire. Claire, the woman he was about to marry. Claire, who had never once uttered a single word about having a child. His pulse raced as confusion, betrayal, and disbelief collided within him. The boy's matter-of-fact revelation that his mother was Claire cut Kyle deeper than any corporate betrayal or romantic fallout ever had. Dragging his steps as though the ground beneath him had shifted, Kyle led the boy toward the villa where Claire was staying. Each second stretched endlessly, his mind reeling with unanswered questions. Why hadn't Claire said anything? Was this boy truly her son? Had she been hiding this secret deliberately? And if so, for how long? When they entered, Claire turned toward them, and the moment her eyes locked onto the boy, the color drained from her face. The recognition was immediate, undeniable, and devastating. Time seemed to stop as the boy broke into a sprint, throwing himself into Claire's arms. The embrace was instinctive, natural, filled with the kind of bond that no lie or secret could obscure. Kyle stood frozen, watching the two cling to each other, and every ounce of certainty he thought he had about the woman he loved slipped through his fingers like sand. Claire's lips trembled, but no words came. The tears streaming down her face said everything and nothing all at once. The tension in that room became unbearable as Kyle's emotions ricocheted between fury, confusion, and devastation. It wasn't just that Claire had a child, it was that she had hidden him, erased this part of herself from the man she claimed to love. The betrayal cut deep, not only because Kyle's trust was shattered, but because his entire sense of future had been altered. How could they possibly walk down the aisle now, with such a monumental secret exposed in such a cruel and public fashion? The boy, oblivious to the whirlwind of adult emotions engulfing the room, clung tightly to his mother, his innocent presence amplifying the enormity of the deception. Claire tried to speak, tried to form the explanations that Kyle desperately needed, but nothing coherent could emerge. Every silence, every hesitation, only deepened the suspicion swirling in Kyle's mind. Was this child born before they met? Was he the result of a dangerous liaison that Claire wanted to bury in her past? Was she ashamed, or was she protecting him from something darker? Genoa City had never been kind to its secrets, and the revelation of an undisclosed son could mean social ruin, corporate vulnerability, and personal destruction. As Kyle's thoughts spiraled, he realized that whatever happiness he had imagined with Claire was now irreparably tainted by the shadow of this boy's existence. He could not look at Claire without questioning every word she had ever said, every promise she had ever made, every glance she had given him that he had mistaken for honesty. And in soap opera fashion, such betrayals were never isolated incidents, they were harbingers of deeper chaos, of more skeletons waiting to tumble out of closets long locked away. The discovery left Kyle teetering on the edge of collapse. The wedding that had been touted as the union of two families, the reconciliation of love and power, was now dangling by a fragile thread. Claire's silence was louder than any confession. It screamed of guilt, of fear, of a past too twisted to reveal in the light of day. The boy's sudden appearance in Nice was no coincidence. It was destiny clawing its way back to the surface, demanding recognition, demanding truth. And Kyle knew with a sinking certainty that whatever explanations Claire eventually gave, nothing would ever be the same. The perfect love story had shattered in an instant, replaced by a scandal that would ripple through Genoa City like a storm no one could stop. The revelation that Claire had a child was not, in itself, the scandal that would ruin Harriet was the fact that she had hidden this truth from every single person who had ever believed in her. From Kyle, who had been ready to pledge his life to her, to Victoria, who had defended her place in the Newman family, to every ally she had tried to cultivate in her attempt to reshape her image from villain to heroine. A child is not a crime. Motherhood is not a betrayal. But secrecy in Genoa City is always a weapon waiting to be turned against its wielder. And Claire's silence had created an explosion no one could have anticipated. The boy was here now, standing as flesh and blood proof of a past she had tried to bury, and his very existence shattered the fragile illusion Claire had spent months constructing. As the room spun in disbelief, Claire's chest tightened with panic because she knew the time had come to explain, but how could she, when the truth itself was more dangerous than the lie? Kyle's fury simmered beneath a veneer of restraint, but his eyes betrayed him. He had been humiliated, blindsided in the worst possible way, confronted with the living embodiment of a secret that had been deliberately kept from him. All his faith in Claire, every promise, every vow they had whispered to each other about starting fresh, about building a family of their own, now lay in ruins. The betrayal cut deeper than any boardroom backstabbing or romantic infidelity ever could. Kyle had been prepared to stand at the altar, ready to bring Claire into the Abbott fold, to make her not just his wife, but a part of his son Harrison's life. Now the hypocrisy of it all choked him. How could she have expected him to merge families when she had kept her own child hidden in the shadows? Claire tried to speak, but her words caught in her throat, her voice trembling with the weight of explanations too long suppressed. She saw the devastation in Kyle's eyes, the disbelief, the pain, and she knew no answer would ever satisfy him because the damage was already done. The boy, unaware of the hurricane swirling around him, clung to his mother's side, his small hand gripping hers as if afraid she might vanish again. His innocence was crueler than any accusation because it exposed Claire's deception in its purest form. For every hug he had been denied, for every day he had wondered where his mother was, there was now the undeniable truth that she had chosen silence over honesty, and that choice had rippled outward to destroy every relationship she had tried to build. Victoria, who had once championed Claire as a cousin worthy of redemption, would feel the sting of betrayal most acutely, for she had staked her reputation and her loyalty on protecting Claire from skeptics who warned she was dangerous. Now, Victoria would see herself as a fool, used and deceived by someone who had smiled to her face while hiding the most profound truth imaginable. The pain of that betrayal would fracture not only their bond, but the trust within the Newman family as a whole, leaving Claire isolated at the very moment she most desperately needed support. There would be tears, show could there not be. Somewhere in the room, a sob would break free, perhaps from someone who saw in the boy's eyes the same pain that haunted so many children in Genoa City. Children caught in the crossfire of lies and ambition. But those tears would not soften the blow. The questions demanded answers, and no one would wait patiently for them. Who was the boy's father? Why had Claire hidden him? Was she protecting him, or was she protecting herself? Every silence, every pause in her explanation would only deepen the suspicion that something far darker lay beneath this revelation. For in Genoa City, no secret exists in isolation. It is always part of a larger web of manipulation, betrayal, and power. The boy was not just Claire's hidden son, he was a key to an entire chapter of her life that she had concealed, a chapter that now threatened to consume her future. Claire's mind raced as she clutched her son, her heart breaking at the sight of his vulnerability, his desperate need for her. She wanted to tell the truth, but she feared it would destroy her completely. She had convinced herself that hiding him was an act of protection, that the dangerous forces of her past would never stop hunting her if they knew of his existence. Yet in doing so, she had created an equally destructive danger, the wrath of those she deceived. Kyle demanded explanations not as a lover, but as a man scorned, a father who knew what it meant to protect a child and who could not forgive the cruelty of keeping motherhood a secret. Victoria, once her closest ally, would demand answers as a Newman, a woman who understood that family secrets were weapons, and who would not tolerate being made vulnerable to another scandal. The others, Jack, Nikki, even Summer from Afterwood, sees upon this revelation as proof that Claire was untrustworthy, that she had always been the threat they suspected. But the worst part was that the story was not finished. The boy's existence was not the end of the secret, but the beginning of a larger truth still festering beneath the surface. Claire's silence had not been about shame or neglect, it had been about fear. Somewhere out there, a man knew the truth, a man who could step into Genoa City at any moment and claim not only the boy, but Claire's entire future. The father's identity, once revealed, would rock every family, every business, every alliance. And Claire, who had thought she could build a new life with Kyle, now realized she had set in motion a chain of events that would destroy the fragile peace she had clung to. She could not hide forever, not from her son, not from Kyle, not from the world. The boy's arrival was destiny's cruel reminder that secrets, no matter how deeply buried, always claw their way to the surface in Genoa City.